Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Good morning, podcasters, and welcome to another beautiful episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How is everyone doing today? Because I could definitely tell you, holy crap, this week it was just purely, well, in lack of a better term, crazy. There has been a whole bunch of animation news that has been going around, and a whole bunch of big news that has been revealed. But there seems to be a lot of chaos, a lot of drama, and a lot of madness that's just going around with these types of news. And what we are about to do is enter upon each and every single one of them today with this podcast. Okay, well, maybe not necessarily all of them, but definitely some of the most fascinating to go and discuss regarding some of the things that did happen. We're all going to be talking about them in this podcast in particular. Maybe we will get a little bit controversial. There might be that slight chance, but you guys probably know me. I'm never afraid to dive into the controversy and to talk about some pretty touchy subjects. So maybe we might enter into some of them. Maybe we might not. But don't worry, I promise you all that at the end of all this, we will still come out okay, and we will still have a lot of fun. So, with all that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, are you all prepared for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, people. Are you all set? Let me hear it. Are you ready? Let's see. Yes. Oh, beautiful. Okay. We got some people going on. I see that. Yeah, you especially. I think you are prepared right there. All right, so with all that said and done, I think it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And with the first story that I would like to go and talk about, it is going to be regarding a certain death. And that was one of the unfortunate things that did happen this week, is that we have seen a lot of very significant passings, whether it be from Beverly Cleary, from Jessica Walter, or even from George Segal. There are a lot of prominent people out there that will definitely be missed and that have definitely made a great impact, whether it be in the children's book industry or in the entertainment industry, and they will definitely be missed. But I'm not going to be talking about any of those. What I will be talking about instead shall be regarding a term. There will be a term, or seagull. Oh, did I mispronounce one of them? Oh, well, I do apologize on that. But anyways, what I'm going to talk about, it's not going to be regarding a person that passed away, but rather a term. And maybe it's not necessarily dead per se, but I think coming soon, I'm just going to say right now, pretty soon we'll have to say goodbye to the term only in theaters. And that is especially with what is happening, considering that movie theaters are going to have their worst nightmares come true. Yes, I'm talking about the announcement that Disney made regarding their upcoming lineup for 2021 and for a little bit of 2022. Now, it seems that with what's going on, I think it is safe to say right now that Raya and the Last Dragon has become a major hit. Now, I know some people might argue with that and say that technically at the box office, it's really underperforming and really not doing well. But it's not necessarily with the box office where it became a success. It's mainly due to Disney Plus and its premium access that people would have to pay $30 in order to go see it on Disney Plus, on top of the subscription that they have to that they have to pay for the streaming service. I know it's kind of stupid, but that's kind of the system that Disney is rolling with. Now, we don't necessarily have any of the numbers that truly do back that up to prove that Raya and the Last Dragon is a big hit. Disney is still keeping that a secret. However, if you want one major indicator that this format seems to be a major success for Raya, then all you have to do is take a look at a couple of movies that are going to be coming out in the summer that Disney is also going to go and apply that format onto them. Specifically, it's going to be regarding Cruella, which is the upcoming live-action remake of 101 Dalmatians, or a bit of a reimagining per se. And then also, and this is the biggest one, regarding the next Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, Black Widow. Yes, it is official for both of them. They are going to be released both in theaters and on Disney Plus with a premium access of $30. But that is not all, however. That's not the only thing that they have announced. At the same time, they have also revealed that for the next Pixar movie, Luca, the release date of that is not going to change. However, they are going to do the exact same thing as Soul. They're going to do the same thing like what they did when they released Soul on Christmas Day, where instead of putting it out in theaters, they're going to skip that entirely and make Luca a Disney Plus exclusive. However, I just want to clarify that unlike Cruella and Black Widow, Luca will not have a premium access. So when the movie will be released on Disney Plus on June 18th, don't worry, you could still go and check it out for free. On top of that, they have also revealed that among these announcements, they have also brought up that there will be some changes in terms of its schedule, where there will be some movies that will end up getting delayed. Like, for example, I got my list here on Deadline, where it states that Black Widow that was supposed to be released on May 7th, but now it is going to be released both on Disney Plus and in theaters on July 9th. Then afterwards, we got the Ryan Reynolds comedy Free Guy that's coming out on August 13th. Then afterwards, we got the next Marvel movie after Black Widow, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, that's coming out on September 3rd. Then afterwards, we got The King's Man, that's now going to get a holiday release on December 22nd. Following that, we got Deep Water, that's now going to be moving to next year on January 14th. And finally, the sequel to Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, which that one is going to be coming out on February 11th of next year. We also got a little bit of a quote here coming from Kareem Daniel, the chairman of Disney Media and Entertainment Distribution, in which he states here, "Today's announcement reflects on focusing on providing consumer choice and serving the evolving preference of audiences. By leveraging a flexible distribution strategy in a dynamic market that is beginning to recover from the global pandemic, we will continue to employ the best options to deliver the Walt Disney Company's unparalleled storytelling to fans and families around the world." And that's currently the big plan, the big situation that Disney has put out there. The fact that they are taking two of their biggest and most anticipated summer blockbusters, and they're going to go and do the same thing with Raya and the Last Dragon, where they're going to simultaneously release it on Disney Plus and in theaters. And the reason why that I do state that this is movie theater's worst nightmare is mainly because, in particular, of one movie. Now, having Cruella do that is one thing. In fact, some people could go and argue and say that, well, okay, maybe with Cruella, it was a bit expected that maybe Disney would go and do the same thing for that. Like, if they would go and continue that format that they would put on Raya and the Last Dragon, then of course, the next movie that they would do so would be with Cruella. That was not surprising. But then, you got Black Widow. And that is the moment where the nightmare truly does begin. And the reason why I state it's a nightmare, it's mainly because of the long discussions that people had regarding what's going to happen with Black Widow. Because ever since it first got delayed from its release date of May of last year, a lot of people have speculated about what's going to happen with Black Widow. What is Disney going to plan to do with that movie in particular? Are they going to move it to Disney Plus? Are they just going to keep on delaying it? And for a while, I'll give it to Disney that they did try. They did put in some hope, believing that maybe they could go and have it be released exclusively in theaters. And they kept pushing and pushing and pushing. But now we are basically at the point where Disney has to stop pushing because they can't just push only Black Widow, but if they got to push one movie, then they also got to push out all the other Marvel Cinematic Universe movies as well. So it would ultimately result in a big domino effect where they would have to go and push back all the other films so that they would have a proper release date. It's like a situation where they cannot put all their eggs in one basket. In fact, it's a little bit of a risky move where at the end of the year, or at least by the second half of 2021, we're already going to go and have 3 different Marvel Cinematic Universe movies where we're going to get Black Widow starting in July, and then a few months later is going to be, or just a couple of months later, is going to be Shang-Chi, and then a couple of months after that is going to be The Eternals, which I believe it's still being scheduled for a November release. And then, and this is not even to mention, technically you can also add in Spider-Man, which is going to be coming out in December. So already, that schedule is going to be pretty jam-packed. And Disney is already at their rope's end in terms of, what they can do while still adapting to how the current situation is going with the pandemic. Yes, we are at the tail end of this pandemic where we are starting to notice more and more people are getting the vaccines, which is definitely great. And not just in the United States, but also around the world. But that doesn't mean that the pandemic is going to go away anytime soon. That doesn't mean that people will stop enforcing the guidelines like wearing a mask or practice social distancing and all that kind of stuff. And especially in cinemas where they have to apply those rules as well, where they would also have to do limited capacity. So Disney is only trying to go and make the most of the situation that they can. And I guess ultimately they decided that they just had to give up, and they noticed that with Raya, that little experimentation, it seemed that it did work for them, and thus they would ultimately apply it to Raya. And I know that even to this day, people are still arguing that with Raya, it might be a box office bomb, Disney lost money and stuff like that. But I would have to disagree. If Disney is taking Raya's format and put it into Black Widow, then it must be worth something. It must mean that it definitely did work out in some capacity to the point that they would trust using that format onto a big and highly anticipated Marvel Cinematic Universe movie like Black Widow, to which they've already delayed for so long. And it's not just Raya. It's not Raya, but it's not just Black Widow that's ultimately a major nightmare for movie theaters, but there is also the factor of Luca as well, because Luca is another movie in which would rank up massive money at the box office. I mean, it's a Pixar film after all, so people would definitely get hyped up, and if there would be one way to encourage people to come back to theaters to see a really good movie on the big screen, it would definitely be Pixar. And that is a massive loss for theaters, not just on the fact that they wouldn't, not just on the fact that it would go to Disney Plus, but it would only go to Disney Plus, that it would not have a chance at all to be on the big screen. Similarly to what happened with Soul. Maybe there will be a re-release in the future that they could try to do something with it, but for now, this is still a massive blow to movie theaters that they did lose a Pixar film in its entirety. So that really does add more to the nightmare fuel for movie theaters. And I guess overall, this really this really is a massive lesson for movie theaters that right now they're in a situation where it really is a lot worse for them. And honestly, I know I'm just some random guy on the internet, but one thing that I do want to comment, that I do want to state about the scenario, if there is one thing that movie theaters should do, right now, honestly, they need to stop complaining. They need to stop getting butthurt and try to retaliate against Disney and try to take action. Because one thing I could say right now, a big reason why Disney is still using this format, why they are still continuing to go and do this whole theaters and Disney Plus release on the same day and stuff like that, a big part of it is because of those movie theaters that decided to just not show Raya and the Last Dragon at all. And if there is one cinema chain that I would have to blame on this, because there have been a few like Cinemark, but especially it's Cineplex. Like, if I would have to blame just one entity, it has to be Cineplex. Because, like I mentioned the last time I talked about this whole story about Raya, what happened with Raya at the box office and all that kind of stuff. Like, I've already mentioned this before, but when it comes to Cineplex, you guys might not have an idea about how Cineplex has basically a whole monopoly when it comes to Canadian movie theater chains. Like, yes, we do have other movie theater chains going on, like Cinema Guzzo or like some other little stuff, or maybe like drive-ins. But when it comes to the big movie theater chains that would be comparable to something like Regal Cinemas or AMC and stuff like that, to be honest, we only have Cineplex, and that is it. And when you lose Cineplex, you lose a grand majority of Canada, leaving Canadians no choice. But if they want to go and watch Raya and the Last Dragon, then they'll just have to just watch it on Disney Plus. Like, even for me, like, the reason why I had to go and check out Raya and the Last Dragon, like, the reason how I got to go and do a review and how I saw the movie myself is because I had to go and buy it on Disney Plus. Got to go and pay the premium access. Again, I understand the criticisms of the whole premium access thing. Yes, I don't blame you. I also find it really stupid that I have to pay extra on top of the premium service, on top of the streaming service that I already have with Disney Plus. I get that, but I'm pretty much left with no choice, mainly because of the fact that there is no other cinema around me that would even show Raya and the Last Dragon in the first place. Like, probably at the time, the closest was probably 40 minutes away from me. And I ain't gonna go and drive 40 minutes just to go see one movie and then drive 40 minutes back. That would just be absolutely stupid. So, overall, in this case, with Raya and the Last Dragon, it has been proven to be a major success, and a large part is because, well, you want to know the grand majority, like, you want to know a big chunk of, like, of the Disney Plus numbers, they're from Canada. So really, like, I would probably say I would blame Cineplex for that format to really become successful. And I mean, others are to blame there, but I would say especially Cineplex. And that's why now we are seeing the same things happening with Cruella, and especially with Black Widow. And then you also got Luca, which is kind of a different story right there, like, because it is through Soul, because that was so massively successful that they want to do like a bit of an encore and do it again with Luca with their next Pixar film. So at least Disney's got that going for them, and it will probably encourage more and more people to go and check out Disney Plus, which, I mean, considering about a month ago or a month or two, they did reveal that they exceeded over 100 million subscribers to Disney Plus. So they got a system that is working for them. But yeah, overall, this is definitely a massive loss for movie theaters. Now, I know that technically there will be those people that will stay committed to go and watch these movies like Cruella and Black Widow and check them out on the big screen. But the fact that there is that option, that is definitely a massive blow to the face, because yeah, as much as there are people out there that they want to go back to the movie theater and experience these movies on the big screen, there are also those other groups of people that rather have the convenience of staying at home. And especially nowadays with how the pandemic is going, maybe even by the time Black Widow would be released, there will still be people who will not be vaccinated or are still waiting to get their vaccine. So the best they can do is just wait at home and stay inside, and probably, it'll be more economic, like, it'll be more of a wise economic choice to stay at home and watch it on Disney Plus, so they and their friends could go and just check it. They could all go and just check it out at their friend's place or something like that, if if their area would allow them to do so. But yeah, like I said, overall, it's a massive loss for movie theaters. It is their worst fears coming true now that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is starting to lean more towards Disney Plus, and we'll just have to wait and see with how things go, if the format is going to stay for a long time on Disney Plus. But that's one thing I got to say, I knew that this was gonna happen. I knew that, like, this whole premium access thing, it ain't just a one-shot deal for stuff like Mulan or for Raya and the Last Dragon. It's gonna continue on for, like, a while. Like, it probably even exceed, like, don't be surprised if you see the premium access still going for 2022 and beyond. All right, so with all that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, what do you all think about Disney's decision of moving these of movies? Well, not moving, but changing the plans of the release dates of these movies and release it, and in terms of how they are distributed. How do you feel that now Cruella and Black Widow are going to be released both on Disney Plus and in theaters, while Luca is released exclusively on Disney Plus? Let me know what you all think on that. Okay, let's see what we got here. I feel bad for movie theaters these days. If they keep losing money, then who knows what will happen to them. Maybe they'll get bankrupted or something. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Though there are some movies that I'm really anticipated to see, like Free Guy, Luca, and Black Widow, and Cruella. But if those two movies end up like what happened to Raya, then they'll continue to lose money, and who knows. By the way, I see that Kirby tagging along. Kirby is tagging along with us in the podcast. Yeah, yeah, I'm wearing my Kirby shirt today because why the fridge not? If there's one thing this podcast needs, it needs more Pollo, and that I think that's what's been missing this whole time. This podcast just needs more Pollo, and hopefully you guys need more Pollo as well. You guys need to bring in more Pollo onto this. Okay, anyways, but one thing I will disagree though is just the fact of how, like, they'll be losing money. I think really the ones who will be losing the most money shall be movie theaters. I don't think it's going to be the movies themselves that will be losing money. Like, maybe if they don't perform well generally, then yeah, they might. But with the strategy with Disney Plus, that's kind of the whole point, so that they don't lose money by just being dependent on the box office alone. Because I'll say right now, if you're just going to rely on releasing your movie exclusively to theaters and just rely on the box office to make your profits back, I'm just going to say right now, nowadays, you will not. That is full-on impossible to do. Let's see, what else do we got here? I don't know what to say, but if theaters are slowly dying in the US, there will still be some countries that will still use cinemas. I guarantee my country is still going to have films in cinemas until they do eventually get their hands on more streaming services like Disney Plus. For me personally, I still don't know if I want to see either Black Widow and or Cruella. Maybe a bit more on Black Widow, but I'm not sure which is truly the right time for me to see either, even if I do get my vaccines. Well, I don't think movie theaters are gonna die. Like, the whole situation that I'm saying right over here is that this is a major blow to movies, but I'm not saying that this is going to be the end of cinema. Maybe it's going to be the end of the term only in theaters, but not the end of, like, movie theaters as we know it. Like, they're still going to stick around, and I'm sure, like, even some governments will try to help out in order to ensure that they could stay afloat. But for now, I think, honestly, it's just the fact that now that we have more options, only time will tell to see if people will be interested to go back to the movie theaters to watch some movies on the big screen, or if they would rather stay at home. But I don't, honestly, I do feel like saying that movie theaters are dying or that movie theaters are going to go extinct, I think that's a bit of an exaggeration right there. I don't know, that's just me. Let's see what else we got. I'm actually a little bummed that we won't be getting Luca in theaters, but I can kind of understand why Disney would do this, especially Black Widow, since the MCU is absolutely huge on Disney Plus with shows like The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, even if I still plan on watching the movie in theaters. I mean, it's either that or my big theater comeback movie is Peter Rabbit 2, which, I'll be real, I don't see myself complaining about. Well, yeah, exactly. It's just, I'm sure by the time that you'll have to go back to theaters, like, you won't really have all that much options out there. Like, I'm sure, like, when people do go back to theaters, like, they'll probably be a little bit more positive to whatever they're going to see, whether it be something like Black Widow or Peter Rabbit 2, mainly because, like, it's the attitude of just, they'll just be happy to be there, like that's going to help out with the mood, and especially with how they would watch a movie on the big screen. So like I think that's going to be a big factor when people are going to be returning. So that's just going to be one thing I want to warn everyone, regardless of how you feel about movie theaters and if you want to go back or not. Whichever movie you're going to see next, like, you're going to be a lot more positive towards it because you're just going to be happy to go back to the movie theaters after months of not being there, or maybe even over a year. I'm just saying. Let's see. What else do we got here? Yeesh. Theaters are really having it bad. I do think that Disney should reduce the price of premium access to $20 so it doesn't seem so pricey for people who live by themselves. Yes, actually, I do agree, honestly. I do have a question, though. With both Luca and Soul, why are they available for free while the other movies cost $30? I could probably understand why they did it with Black Widow, but not really Cruella. Okay, yeah, honestly, that is a very good question there. Like, honestly, I do agree with you. Number one, I would love to see them reduce the price to $20. That would be nice. Like, even if it means, like, pay $20 for just one account. Like, that would be perfectly fine. Or like one profile in an account. Like, that I could probably understand. That would be cool. That would be fine. But then when it comes to some of the other stuff, some of the things that you do mention, especially like why the Pixar movies wouldn't have that $30 price tag, I think that might be a decision from Pixar themselves. I think that's probably a choice that they have made. I don't really see like the Disney executives saying that, okay, we'll give this movie $30, but not something like Soul or Luca or something like that. I think that's probably a decision that was done by the higher ups at Pixar right now. I don't know. That's just a little bit of a theory, but that would probably be my guess, that they would rather have people see it for free instead of paying an additional $30. Like, they don't want to be added onto the controversy of the whole premium access situation. That's my guess. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. Well, not just Pete Docter, but also like the president of Pixar as well. I forgot his name, but like it was probably like his choice as well to do that. Let's see, what else we got here. I don't mind that Luca is getting a release date on. Yeah, Jim Morris. Yeah, it's probably, yeah. Thank you so much. Who the fridge said that, by the way? Pollo. Someone says Polo. No, not like the chicken. Okay. Anyways, who? No, seriously, who said that? Actually, just want to double check. Who was the person that said Jim Morris? Yeah, Dragon Warrior 2000. Thank you so much for that. Anyways, so yeah, basically what I was trying to say is that it's probably a decision from like Pete Docter and from Jim Morris to go and make it for free on Disney Plus. But anyways, I'll read one more comment before we jump into the next story. I don't mind that Luca is getting a release on Disney Plus. It's easier for me and my mom to see the movie during these times safe and sound. Granted, I do want to see it on the big screen, but I'd rather be safe and see it in theaters. Also, movie theaters are still closed around... Excuse me. Also, movie theaters are still closed around the country, but they are still opening up soon with a limited capacity. Can't wait to see Pixar's Luca soon. It looks so damn beautiful. And I think at the end of the day, it really is, what do you prioritize? Your health or going to see a movie on the big screen? Like, sometimes there are some people that prioritize their health above and beyond everything else, and then there are others that prioritize wanting to see a movie on the big screen, that, like, for them, that's more important than everything else. Like, even if they say that they'll be careful and stuff like that, like, their big goal is to see something on the big screen more so than, like, be more cautious about their health. So that's just one big thing to emphasize. So yeah, that's pretty much the big news with all that. And for those of you who still want to go and check out these movies, just keep in mind, for the big ones that I've highlighted, Cruella is still going to be coming out on May 28th, Luca is still coming out on June 18th, and keep in mind about Black Widow, which got a new release date on July 9th. Alright, so moving on to our next story. what I'm going to be talking about is regarding what is possibly one of the biggest animation news of last year, or specifically, the biggest anime news of last year. Now, you might remember by the end of 2020, there was that big controversial move to which the Sony Corporation is planning to go and fully buy out Crunchyroll for an estimate or nearly $1.2 billion, in which many people have feared that because of this, considering that Sony already owns, they already own Funimation, people are worried that this might ultimately result in a monopoly. Like, Sony could actually be just a few steps away from having a full-on monopoly on anime in general. Or if the deal actually did go through, or if it does go through, then Sony would just have a full-on monopoly on international anime distribution. And that has a lot of people very concerned and a lot of people very worried, just like I said. But there is also another group of people out there that's also very concerned about this whole deal that is happening. But the thing is, with these groups of people, however, with this particular group, they actually have the power to do something. They can actually take action, and they could be capable of stopping this whole deal if it turns out to be a full-on monopoly. And what I'm going to be talking about is going to be regarding the U.S. Justice Department. Yes, the Department of Justice is currently extending their antitrust review on the whole deal between AT&T and Sony to go and ultimately sell Crunchyroll for $1.175 billion. And they even would go and continue by saying here, reading from my source on The Verge, to which they actually picked this up from the website The Information. It actually states here, the Department of Justice is focused on whether the deal limits the options of Japanese studios looking to license shows in the US, according to the information sources. Warner Media and Sony have told the Justice Department that Crunchyroll and Sony's budding anime empire are just two of many options anime creators have to distribute their shows outside of Japan, the information writes. But even if direct competition isn't a concern, there could be other reasons to why. The article would go and continue on by saying how Sony, under Funimation, where they would go and just buy out more smaller anime distributors, not just in the US, but also in different countries such as France and Australia. And that's why I said in the beginning that this isn't just a full-on monopoly in terms of US anime distribution. I mean full-on international anime distribution where everything outside of Japan will be handled by Sony, especially with now the fact that if the deal would go through, then they would have the biggest collection of anime. That they would have over 1,800 titles of different Japanese anime shows and Japanese animated shows and movies and other projects and all that kind of stuff, and that ultimately they would combine together in order to create this one massive streaming service that would be like a combo of Crunchyroll and Funimation. That's like one of the big things that people are worried about the situation. But right now, considering that the US Department of Justice is doing a full-on review of this, there is a possibility that we could see in the future that this deal might be taken down immediately. Now, I know that when it comes to some people regarding the subject of Funimation and with Sony and how they would go and handle anime, like, that is a bit of a controversial piece in itself. That, in a way, you could say that's like a whole other story that a lot of people would spend hours just discussing about regarding their handlings of anime distribution, how they would go and localize the animes, rather it be through subs or dubs, or if they would go and change up a few scenes, rather it be like dialogues or just cutting out certain scenes altogether. Like, there is that possibility of moments like that could happen with Funimation, but again, that's like a whole other story. But the big picture, but the bigger thing to go and worry about is regarding the fact that this could actually turn out to be a monopoly. And that's the biggest thing that people are currently scared of right now, that it's all under Sony Pictures umbrella. Or not Sony Pictures, but just Sony in general, like the big Sony corporation. Now, from there, I've already talked about my piece on all this. I've already discussed it a few times before, during the end of 2020 when all that scenario was unfolding. And in a way, like, I know there are some arguments that technically there are plenty of other different anime distributors as well, like especially that are technically massive corporations. Like, there are other places such as Netflix or Amazon or even G Kids would go and distribute their own animes, rather it be as TV shows or movies and stuff like that. But those ones are a bit of a different case. All those other ones, they don't specialize in anime. Like, technically, yes, they do distribute anime, but that's not the main thing that they do. They don't specialize in that. They're not just about anime. It's kind of like a little bit of a side dish on top of distributing all the other shows that they would have, like live action shows, Western animated series, and all that kind of stuff. Like anime is just an extra for them. But if Sony would go and combine Crunchyroll and Funimation, or already with those two entities alone, they specialize in anime. For them, anime is all about that. Not to mention that there are also a bit of subsidiaries that, on top of that, like both Crunchyroll and Funimation, they would also specialize a little bit in handling manga as well. So this isn't just about animes in general, but there's also a factor that Japanese art and Japanese storytelling through either pages or through the screen, that they would, like, there is that fear that they would all be controlled under one massive entity. That's the one major thing that people are currently worried about with this whole ordeal. But the signs, but then again, a lot of people are stating that it is a monopoly, and technically they're not alone on this factor. That, like, the fact that we got the Department of Justice actually looking into this situation, that is a very massive deal. Like when you got like the government to come in and they might have to possibly intervene on this whole deal, then you know that like there is some major fishy activity that is going on. And I mean, they've already got a history of like separating different companies in order to ensure that there isn't one major monopoly that is going on. So chances are maybe we will actually see this deal just break down altogether, and we might not actually have a whole monopoly in the case of anime distribution. And for me, honestly, if I would put in my opinion on this, I feel like if Sony does end up buying out Crunchyroll, then yes, I would actually do feel like that would be a legit monopoly. Mainly because of the fact that, as I said before, Crunchyroll and Funimation already have two of the biggest anime collection ever in the world. And by combining them together, they would just become this one massive entity that would dwarf all the others. Yeah, there might be a few other like smaller anime distribution companies, but none of them would ever get into the leagues of Sony if they do combine both Crunchyroll and Funimation. And you never know if from there Sony might end up going around just buying more of the smaller ones as well, like Sentai Filmworks or and who knows, maybe like some of G Kids as well that specialize in anime. Like they'll be, they'll end up buying from G Kids the distribution rights of Studio Ghibli, for example. Like you never know like where that could potentially stop. But even just by combining Funimation and Crunchyroll alone, you already have the grand majority of an anime distribution right there, not just in North America, but all around the world as well, since a lot of them are, like a lot of the international ones, like in Europe, in Oceania, and plenty of other places, those are just subsidiaries for either Crunchyroll or Funimation. So yes, for me, I do feel like there is a bit of a monopoly that would actually happen if the deal fully goes through. But then again, I would say that I do kind of understand a little bit as to why Sony and AT&T would want to do this deal. Because for both these companies, this would be a deal that would be absolutely beneficial. And if the Department of Justice does intervene, then both these companies would be massively screwed. Because I don't know if you guys already know this, but I think it goes without saying that both Sony and AT&T, at least in terms of their entertainment divisions, they're struggling. Like the pandemic really took a massive blow on both of them. And right now they're just really going around trying to make sure that they could survive, that at least they could have something in order to go and adapt during these times. Like on one hand, you got Sony, which, let's be honest, in this day and age, they are very poorly equipped in order to be prepared to still compete in the entertainment industry, mainly because of the fact that Sony does not have a full-on streaming service, or at the very least, they don't have a legitimate streaming service that could actually go and compete against any of the big streaming services that are currently in the streaming wars out there. Sony has nothing to go and compete against Disney Plus, against Netflix, against Amazon, against HBO Max, even against some of the smaller ones like Peacock or Apple TV Plus. Sony has nearly nothing. So, what the reason why Sony would want to go and buy Crunchyroll is that by combining Funimation and Crunchyroll in order to go and create the ultimate anime streaming service, then by that point, they could actually have something that could actually compete against many of those big streaming services. The fact that they would all place their money onto anime, then maybe they could actually have a legitimate competitor that could rank up among those big streaming services. So for Sony, the reason why they need this deal is because they need a competitor in the streaming wars. And as for AT&T, for that one, well, let's be honest, AT&T just needs the money. Like, if you guys don't know about the business history of AT&T, they are just filled with nothing but really poor business decisions. Like, ever since they went and purchased DirecTV and made a serious mistake on that, to the point that they literally lost billions upon billions of dollars. Like, and I'm legit talking about like the 11-digit mark, the amount that they have lost on that deal. Right now, they're just doing everything they can in order to just keep themselves afloat. I'm not saying that AT&T is on the verge of like fully shutting down or anything. Like, they still have a lot of very strong subsidiaries under them, like HBO or Warner Brothers and all that kind of stuff. It's just right now, the poor business decisions are really taking a toll on them, and especially with the pandemic, they have really been struggling to try to pick themselves up from there. Like, even other companies like Comcast and Disney, like, after they got that massive hit from the pandemic, like, they still managed to rise up a little bit afterwards. But with AT&T, on the other hand, nah, they've just been having a hard time. Even if they already released, even if they released HBO Max, like, they're still struggling, and they still desperately need the money in order to pay their debts. I'm just saying, why else do you think that they would go and make Zack Snyder's Justice League? I know there are plenty of different factors as well, but a major reason is because of how AT&T is really that desperate for the money, and they need something to really rank up the views or rank up the subscriptions for HBO Max. They desperately do need that. In fact, I think I just heard recently that that pretty soon they're actually going to go and release a brand new package where it's going to be with commercials but at a cheaper price. So that's like an additional, kind of like an additional thing to get people to go and watch or to go and subscribe to HBO Max. So for AT&T, they're just really desperate to get the money, and nearly $1.2 billion would be a massive help for them. But then again, I just want to say, like, yeah, they both, like, for Sony and for AT&T, they both have their very valid reasons. But then again, you still got to keep in mind that they are still two multi-billion-dollar corporations nonetheless. And even if they lose, even if this is a scenario where the Department of Justice decided to axe off the whole deal and everything, like, technically for us regular people, it's not really that much of a loss. It's really them that are losing more than we would. Nothing really would change on our part. It would just be very fascinating to see how things are going with those two companies, especially with this deal that is currently going on. So for me, honestly, as I personally feel that when it comes to this whole deal, yes, I do find this to be a bit of a monopoly, but ultimately it's going to be up to the Department of Justice to see what they are going to do with this deal. Will they actually let this through? Will they actually let Sony and AT&T actually make the deal where AT&T can get some extra money, where while Sony can have like a major monopoly on the anime industry and in terms of international anime distribution, or are they going to cut it off? That's ultimately going to be something that we will have to wait and see with what's going to happen in the future. But either way, I still find this to be massively fascinating to check out. So I'm definitely going to keep my eye on this piece of news. So, with that said, I would like to now go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about the whole situation with the Department of Justice looking into the Sony Crunchyroll buyout? Do you guys think that it would end up in a monopoly? Do you think the Department of Justice should intervene, should stop the deal altogether, or should we let the deal go through and let AT&T sell Sony Pictures? Let me know what you all think. Okay, let's see what we got here. Hold on a sec. I don't watch a lot of anime, so I honestly don't care that much about this, but I don't think that Sony should have a monopoly on anime distribution. Owning Funimation is fine, but Crunchyroll as well is just too much. If Sony is looking for a streaming service, then why don't they just do what Viacom CBS did with Paramount Plus and fully relaunch Crackle? Relaunch Crackle. Let's just wait and see with what the Department of Justice ends up doing with this deal. I mean, you do have a point. Like, technically, Sony could go and try to make a full-on reboot with Crackle and try to make a legitimate Sony Pictures streaming service. But then again, this would also go and raise the question, would people actually want a Sony Pictures streaming service? Like, that's also the big question that people would go and want to ask. Like, on top of the stuff that they would already have with stuff like Netflix, with Disney Plus, with Amazon, with Hulu, with what else, with HBO Max and all that kind of stuff, would they want to also go and add, did I say Craggle? Yes, unleash the Craggle. We need a reboot of the Craggle, so we need to take down these Legos. Crackle, sorry about that. Okay. Wow, that's quite a slip up right there. Okay, anyways, I'm sorry. As I was saying, yes, with the whole situation, it really is kind of the big question right here. Would people want an actual Sony Pictures streaming service on top of the streaming services that they would already have? That would be a big that would be a big iffy factor. Like, they would have to do so much more. And on top of that, like, they would have to break a lot of contracts that they would already have with Netflix. And considering that Sony already has a pretty good deal going on with Netflix, it's going to be hard to see if they want to break that. Like, you know the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So why would they want to go and fix something that isn't really broken with what they already have with Netflix? So that's already kind of a big determining factor right there. Let's see, what else do we have here? When the Department of Justice gets involved in this, that's when you know that things are getting serious. I can understand why Sony probably wants Crunchyroll since they have no big streaming service when compared to Disney and HBO, but people don't seem to like it when a company becomes too much of a monopoly. I do feel like the Department of Justice should intervene with this. Okay, so we do have someone that doesn't want this. While I was happy with this week that I finally got my PS5 along with getting the first dose of the Pfizer vaccine, you lucky bastard. Anyways, I have no idea that the Department of Justice got involved with the Sony Crunchyroll deal this week. I don't know if the Department of Justice will strike down or not, but I'll have to keep an eye out if the deal will go through or not. If the Department of Justice does so, then it will be a massive blow for both companies. Let's wait and see. All right. You definitely had quite a lucky week right there. Honestly, I am kind of I am jealous, honestly. You got a vaccine and you got a PS5, dude, man. That's like a total win right there. Part of me kind of wishes that I were in your shoes right now. Like just a week where you walk out with freaking a PS5 and as well as a vaccine. Like that's a bonus right there. Let's see what else we have here. I say, why not? Make well-known and obscure shows and films be widely available instead of relying on some DVDs and Blu-ray releases that might be out of print and then going on a massive Easter egg hunt to find them. I say let the deal go through and make it easier to view these anime shows / movies, especially the Evangelion rebuild films, because I want to watch them because they are so expensive. Oh boy, so we do have one supporter, surprisingly enough. All right, what else do we have here? I do hope Sony knows what the heck they're doing. Remember the time those angry employee letters got revealed thanks to the Sony hack, thus they had to cancel some projects? Remember when they greenlit the Emoji Movie? I even heard them trying to censor some of the anime-based games. No wonder PS5 ain't selling well in Japan. Crunchyroll isn't perfect either. Remember the High Guardian Spice announcement back in 2018? Then again, that show is kind of dead except for some tweets by the makers. Yeah, honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I hope something does come out of High Guardian Spice. Yeah, it did get some major backlash back then, but hopefully that doesn't mean that they just ended up bailing out just because of a poor marketing decision. Like, seriously, there should be something that must be done. Like, we know they've worked on it, and we know people worked hard on it, so they can't just, let it go. So I just thought I would make a quick comment that, yeah, come on, don't give up on High Guardian Spice, Crunchyroll. Let's see, what else do we have here? I'll read one more comment before we jump into the next story here. What else do we have? Okay, so not much, I guess, or okay, maybe this one. Well, Warner Brothers having their own anime dubbing company was fun while it lasted. If the Department of Justice approves that deal, Sony has sold Crackle to another company, I guess. I am using AT&T for phone data. All right, well, hopefully that's still going well for you because I haven't heard good things about AT&T. Then again, what good things have you heard from any service provider? Let's be honest. Alright, so now that we are done with Sony being in a little bit of trouble, it is time now that we are going to be switching the position of trouble to SpongeBob. And lately, SpongeBob has actually made a decision that they have already made a while ago, but now a lot of people have seemed to notice, and it did get a little bit of controversy regarding this kind of decision, but we'll see how you guys might possibly feel when I tell you that there are going to be a few episodes that you won't be seeing anymore. Yes, there are now 2 episodes that are said to be out of rotation in terms of SpongeBob SquarePants. These episodes in particular are Midlife Crustacean and Kwarantine Krab. Now, Midlife Crustacean, if you guys don't remember, was one of the first episodes of SpongeBob, way back in 2003 for one of their season 3 episodes. And that's the one where Mr. Krabs just ended up getting a midlife crisis, and he's relying on SpongeBob and Patrick to go and recapture his youth. And that's pretty much the big scenario. It's just the fact that Mr. Krabs is just a bit worried that he's getting a little too old. But the reason why that episode in particular is no longer in circulation in terms of Nickelodeon, but by the way, that is one thing I almost forgot to mention, is the fact that it's not just out of rotation, like you won't be able to find it on television through Nickelodeon anymore, but also in terms of digital services, they decided to take that out as well, including on Amazon and even on Paramount Plus. Now, the reason why Midlife Crustacean is no longer going to be available is mainly because I'm going to read you here from my story here on IGN, as it states. Is it would it be this one or no? Okay, yeah, this is the part right here. All right, so it says here, the scene that may have led to the episode's removal could be the scene where Patrick suggests a panty raid, which lead to SpongeBob, Patrick, and Mr. Krabs breaking into a woman's house to steal her underwear. It turns out that the house that they broke into was Mr. Krabs' mom's house. The mom catches the three in the act and sends Mr. Krabs to his childhood room for the rest of the night. Then there is also another episode that they have removed that I've already mentioned, and that was Kwarantine Krab. And with that one, it says here, Kwarantine Krab features the return of the health inspector to the Krusty Krab. The inspector finds a case of clam flu in the restaurant and quarantines all patrons inside. The characters immediately begin distrusting each other, and anybody assumes to have the virus is shunned and thrown in the freezer. It's not clear if the episode will be released in the future. And I'm just going to say this once and only once in terms of the episode Kwarantine Krab. Insert Among Us joke here. But yeah, so that's basically the big scenario with both of them. Oh, and some people are probably wondering, considering that it's no longer going to be available on television or on digital distribution, some might be wondering, what about DVDs? What are they going to do in terms of DVD releases? Because there are a few DVDs out there that does actually contain Midlife Crustacean as part of their episodes. One in particular being the big first 100 episodes DVD of SpongeBob SquarePants. Well, in that case, it did actually write something about that, where they did mention that IGN has also acquired a DVD box set for SpongeBob the first 100 episodes. Midlife Crustacean is available in full on the DVD set, which has a 2020 copyright on it. Nickelodeon stated no comment when asked if the episode will be removed from digital outlets or future DVD releases. But then, actually, before I continue, some might be wondering, though, that when it comes to those episodes in particular, what about the second story that would be accompanied with that episode in particular? Because as you guys probably know, if you watch SpongeBob, like, one full episode isn't just one story. They would usually be 11-minute episodes of one story and then another 11 minutes of another, which in this case with both Kwarantine Krab and for Midlife Crustacean, one of them has the Great Snail Race. And the other is, did they actually say, what was the next episode for Kwarantine Krab? I'm not 100% sure. Chadwell, maybe you can help me out on this. What's the episode that accompanies Kwarantine Krab? I just need to know a little bit on that. Squidward no, it's not Squidward tennis balls. Let's see, what else would it be? I'm just trying to figure out. Okay, anyways, okay, while you people are probably figuring out who are Zoo, okay, yes, all right, so it seems to be the whole episode would be Who Are Zoo. So in terms of those episodes, apparently they'll do what they can to try to separate, like, if it is like a full-on ban, they'll try to do what they can in order to separate those episodes from those controversial stories, where it even says here, both Snail Race and Midlife are unavailable for purchase for digitally on Amazon. However, Amazon Prime in the USA currently has both episodes unchanged and available to stream for all subscribers, and Midlife Crusade. Okay, maybe this is not really the case, but they'll try to figure out something. Apparently, the Great Snail Race is still going to be available on Paramount Plus, but maybe they'll have a plan to figure out what they could do with those stories in particular. But that's pretty much the big thing. It's the fact that both Kwarantine Krabs and for Midlife Crustacean, those are now going to be considered. Well, I guess people are now going to label it as banned episodes that you will no longer, that it's gonna like, it's not going to be impossible to go and find them, but it's going to be a lot more difficult to try to actually find those episodes, rather it be digitally or through DVD and stuff like that. So that's going to be the big challenge that they are going to do. Now, first of all, I just want to say that when it comes to Kwarantine Krab, honestly, I find that to be perfectly understandable. Now, this is not, well, I guess for both episodes, it is not the show creator's fault. It's not any of the people who wrote the episode. It's not any of the team's fault who have built that episode that it ended up becoming outdated to this day. But with Quarantine Krab, I guess with that one, it is pretty understandable that, like, nowadays, we have gone through a real pandemic and it really is no laughing matter. So by presenting an episode like Quarantine Krab, which, by the way, I forgot to mention that it is a season 12 episode. So with Quarantine Krab, it would just end up bringing up some bad memories of the whole pandemic and the way that they would handle it. Yeah, like trying to handle this like some kind of crazy Among Us game, it's not very much ideal. So it's like, yeah, in a way, it has already become outdated, and it's the kind of episode that you don't want to encourage kids to try to say this is what you should do in a pandemic, because that's just full-on freaking paranoia right there. So on that regard, that I do understand. And then there is the episode Midlife Crustacean, and that one is actually a little bit more controversial in terms of its removal, because I will say this. I do understand why there are people out there who have a bit of a personal connection to that episode in particular, that, you know, they have a personal love for that episode, especially with a lot of great and hilarious moments. Rather it be, especially to this day, a lot of people are still quoting, "Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs?" Like, there's a lot of great moments, a lot of hilarious moments. You know, like, it's definitely an episode that you would definitely have a good time if you would watch that. But then again, in terms of the removal of that episode, honestly, I can understand that. Like, I actually get why they would want to go and take out Midlife Crustacean, because I'm just going to ask you this right now. Who in their right mind nowadays would want to go out on a panty raid? Like, nowadays, a panty raid would be like one of the creepiest things that you would ever do. I mean, think about it. It really is the idea of just breaking into someone's house and steal their underwear. And that's it. That's pretty much the whole idea of what is a panty raid, and it's very messed up. Forget the factor of the whole perversion aspect. That's a whole piece of trouble right there. But it's just, everything about it is wrong. It's like, already you're trespassing into someone else's property. You're breaking into someone's house just so you could go and steal their underwear for reasons I have no clue. But I feel like that's like a situation, the more you go deeper into it, the more disturbing and messed up that it would actually be. So on that regard, okay, I kind of do understand that it is definitely something that no one should ever do nowadays. It's something that should be discouraged by everyone. I think it goes without saying that no one should ever do a panty raid. And especially in the case of Midlife Crustacean, you gotta really think that there actually is a moment where they actually do lay it out in full of what it is and what you should do. Like, there even is that, like, you probably, like, if you've seen the episode, then you probably remember that interaction that Patrick and Mr. Krabs have. Like, Mr. Krabs was, like, pretty much fed up with SpongeBob and Patrick. He doesn't think that they're cool. He thinks that they're square, they're nerds, they're just, like, you're nerds, geeks, and babies. Like, he was tired, he was about to go home, and then Patrick manages to convince Krabs to come back with the whole panty raid. And then following afterwards, they would just go and describe in full of what it is. Like, I even remember some of the lines, actually. It was like, you go, like, you break into a girl's house, you break in, you raid their drawers for their underpants. Like, they really lay it out for kids to describe what is a panty raid and what you should do, and why apparently it's considered like a fun boys thing to go and do. Like that really is a product of the whole boys will be boys mentality. So in that regard, yeah, it's understandable. Like, it's not, I wouldn't say it's full on offensive. I think it's more of a case similarly to like Pepe Le Pew. It's just very outdated and it's a very uncomfortable concept. Yeah, there is that like payoff where like, it turns out like, yeah, it ends up becoming Mr. Krabs' mom's house, and like they would actually do get a bit of a payback for like the whole scenario, or at least Mr. Krabs gets payback from it, while SpongeBob and Patrick are still scot-free from doing a panty raid. But still, honestly, in that regard, I can actually understand why they would have to take it out of circulation. So, yeah, it's honestly just a very disturbing moment that maybe it's for the best that people shouldn't go and share around. Like, maybe discourage the, like, yeah, maybe it's one of those things that maybe it's okay for cancel culture to go after. Like, yeah, many people will probably question about, like, cancel culture going after this and whatever. Maybe people will try to spread that paranoia. But if there's one thing we can all agree on, regardless of which side we're in, I think it's okay for cancel culture to go and take panty raids. Like, cancel culture can have that. Here, you can have panty raids. That's perfectly okay. But in regards to the other episodes, however, regarding stuff like Who Are Zoo and The Great Snail Race, honestly, I still don't know what's going to happen to them. I don't know if Viacom CBS is still planning to still keep them on board, or they're still going to remove them, because it is true that sometimes when it comes to like certain episodes, like when one story is specifically for one specific use, then at that point the other one has to be dragged along with it. Like a great example is The Paper. The paper is often considered to be an extremely rare SpongeBob episode, mainly because it is always attached to like that episode is often attached to the Valentine's Day special, and Nickelodeon would often like all they would do is just air the Valentine's episode on Valentine's Day, and thus with The Paper it kind of makes it a pretty rare episode to find, because people don't often see The Paper because it's attached to the Valentine's Day episode. If they want to see The Paper, they gotta wait for Valentine's Day. Or I forgot the name of the episode, but there's also that other one where SpongeBob got bit by a snail, probably got bit by Gary, and he would slowly but surely morph himself into an actual snail. And that is also another very rare episode, mainly because that is often attached to the Halloween episode. So if people want to see that one, then they would have to see they would have to see the Halloween episode. So maybe it would unfortunately be the same case with the Great Snail Race and Who Are Zoo, that those are going to end up becoming very rare episodes. But who knows? Maybe they'll do something different with that one. Yeah, people are bringing up that the episode that I was talking about is I Was a Teenage Gary. Thank you for clarifying that. But I just want to say overall, in this entire case, am I shocked to hear that there are certain episodes that are now going to be out of rotation, that are going to be much harder to find or would be considered banned from television or digital or anything like that? To be very honest, I would have to say no. I am not surprised at all. And I just want to clarify, the big reason is because you have to face the reality, folks, that SpongeBob SquarePants is more than 20 years old. It's one of the longest running anime series in history. And with a show going on for that long, that's still producing new episodes week after week or time after time, then at that point, you are going to have some episodes that will no longer be available on television. And all these very long-running shows go through that. Family Guy has some restricted episodes, The Simpsons has some restricted episodes, Pokemon has some restricted episodes, even Sesame Street actually has some banned episodes that they would no longer air. If you don't believe me, then look up the Wicked Witch episode. So this actually does happen all the time, where you actually do see episodes that would unfortunately no longer air for one reason or another. Rather, is because they were too controversial, or it's because over time they ended up becoming outdated. Another one I almost forgot to mention, like South Park as well, is another one that would have episodes that they would no longer be in rotation, or that they would be full on banned. So when it comes to SpongeBob, of course there would be a few episodes. I mean, yeah, the case of SpongeBob is a lot less severe than something like Simpsons or Family Guy or South Park, but it is to be expected that maybe they will bring up some concepts, or there will be some episodes that will unfortunately seem a bit outdated, and they would go and do things that would be discouraged nowadays. So that's pretty much the big thing, and keep in mind, like, one thing also to emphasize, like, especially in terms of Midlife Crustacean, that episode was from 2003. And 2003, remember that it was a much, much different time than how it is nowadays in 2021. So that's a major context. So you definitely know for a fact that if the SpongeBob team would make Midlife Crustacean nowadays, it would certainly not be the same way like how they did it back in 2003. Or actually, you know what? I actually do have a little bit of a theory. I do have a bit of a fun theory as to why Midlife Crustacean actually got banned. It's probably, it's not because of the whole panty raid scenario. It's actually because it's a decision from the show creators. It's actually from the people who did make the episode, because now, like, they look at the episode and they realize the reality that they are becoming Mr. Krabs, because that episode is going to become, like, I think, like, if I do the math correctly, that episode is going to be 18 years old. So it's like 18 years ago that they made that episode. It's like, no, it can't be 18 years ago that I made that. I'm not old. I swear, I'm not old. Please, get rid of it on television. Get rid of it on Paramount Plus. Get rid of it on Amazon. I don't want to see it. I'm not old. So maybe that could be the reason. It's because they're going through the exact same thing as what Mr. Krabs is going through right now. So that could be the situation, but overall, yes, I'm not really that surprised, and I do understand why Kwarantine Krabs and Midlife Crustacean are going to be a lot harder to find. Am I going to miss it? A little bit, but then again, I'm not really that upset, mainly because I do have the DVD of the first 100 episodes, and it does include Midlife Crustacean, so if ever I want to revisit it, I know that I got my DVD right there. So honestly, that's my whole feeling. That's my feelings on this, where, yeah, it kind of sucks that they are going to be a little bit more restricted to go and have any form of access to watch it. But then again, I do understand the reasons. At least that's my take on it. Okay, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about Midlife Crustacean and Kwarantine Krab no longer on rotation, that they're going to be a little bit more banned? Do you feel like you understand the situation? Are you guys against this whole ban? Let me know what you feel about this. Okay, let's see what we got here. Kwarantine Krabs was outdated when it was released. No surprise there. But I'm gonna miss Midlife Crustacean. It's one of my favorite episodes from the pre-movie era, despite the panty raid. And we'll still have access to Midlife Crustacean in particular since we have the DVDs. But I just want to know what's gonna happen to the Great Snail Race and Who Are Zoo. And if Fox News will be screaming, "The left cancel SpongeBob." Oh boy, yeah. I think, like, at this point, because of like the whole crap that we've seen with stuff like with like Dr. Seuss and Mr. Potato Head and the Muppets and all that kind of stuff, I think people are just expecting that nowadays. I think like that would probably be the reason why anyone would go and tune in to Fox News right now, is to see us like, in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if people are betting on it. Like right now, there are gambling sites that are setting up. It's like, all right, people, place your bets. Will Fox News rant about cancel culture going after SpongeBob? All right, come on, place your bets, everyone. Will they do it? Will they do it? Come on, put up your money. I think it's pretty much anticipated right now. All right, anyways, let's see what we got here. I could definitely understand the erasure of these episodes. even if I'm gonna miss the famous port in the store misheard line. Oh my god, yes, that is true. Also, it's port. Oh, okay, that's what it is. Even I'll admit, even I kind of misheard that actually. Like I thought it was the misinterpreted line, but anyways, I never knew what it specifically was. I especially understand the removal of the quarantine crabs with how ill-timed it was. No pun intended. But if they're gonna remove these episodes, what about the gross out scenes from the Splinter and House Fancy, or the entirety of SpongeBob You're Fired? There's nothing inappropriate in there, just screw that episode. Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of discussion that I feel like the more you get into it, the more messy that it's going to be. In fact, that's going to be a major theme on the next story that I'm going to talk about. But yeah, there are some determining factors, but I guess it'll depend on on time. Like it'll depend on what Viacom CBS will say about those episodes in particular, and if they do receive like any complaints about them and stuff like that. But it's more of a wait and see episode for now. Like all we know is just those episodes in particular will be out of circulation. Let's see what else we got here. So let me get this straight. Nickelodeon no longer shows Midlife Crustacean because of the panty raid and banning Kwarantine Krab due to the pandemic. And yet, they're still allowed to show episodes like One Course Meal, which was about suicidal anxiety, Are You Happy Now, which is about clinical depression, and even Fungus Among Us, which is about germ-spreading pandemic-ish episode. Those are real episodes. Look them up. Yeah, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like this is the controversial aspect that's gonna keep on rolling to become a little bit more troublesome and a little bit more controversial. It's yeah, now you got a few episodes that are gonna be out of rotation, and then that's gonna be the point where you're gonna see some people go like, oh, well, what about this episode? What about that episode? What about this episode? What about that episode? That's where it becomes a bit more of a mess. And again, like we can have our own opinions on those particular episodes, but ultimately it is up to Viacom CBS to know what they are going to do with those episodes in particular, and if those episodes would be worth being out of circulation, or if they are worth just keeping around on Nickelodeon and Paramount Plus and stuff like that. It's up to them. Let's see what else we got here. With Kwarantine Krab, I can certainly understand why they would remove that episode. Oh, crap. Nope, sorry. Did I... Oh, wait. Wait, did I get a... Card warning instead of remove... Okay, no, sorry. Okay. Did I don't know if I read that. Okay, no. I didn't read this comment. Sorry about that. Okay, anyways. With Kwarantine Krab, I can certainly understand why they would remove that episode. With Midlife Crustacean, however, I don't really get it. Sure, the panty raid scene didn't really age that well, but they clearly portray it as a bad thing with Krabs getting grounded by his own mom. Heck, when they asked the Nickelodeon representatives if they ever consider a content warning instead of removing the episode, all they said was no comment. Yeah, that is true, and in a way, I could understand that, and honestly, I could side you with this. Like for me, honestly, I would agree also that the Kwarantine Krab removal, that's perfectly understandable. But in terms of Midlife Crustacean, yeah, maybe putting up a disclaimer would have been helpful. Like maybe putting up a disclaimer saying like, the same kind that you would find on stuff like Disney Plus or Warner Brothers or stuff like that. That probably would have been a bit more understandable. That probably would have be more helpful instead of full on getting rid of that episode in particular. Like, honestly, I do see where you're coming from, and yeah, maybe they should have done that. Maybe it's not as extreme. Like the case with Midlife Crustacean, it's not as extreme or controversial as like some of the other some of the other cartoons that have been considered controversial. So yeah, that could have been something that could have been an easy patch by putting in a disclaimer. Let's see. I'll read one more. I'll read one more comment before we go and move on to the next story. For me personally, I could definitely understand. With Midlife Crustacean, the whole panty raid scene being incredibly inappropriate. As for Kwarantine Krab, that one should absolutely not be shown to anyone, especially considering the horrible timing with the pandemic. Also, fun fact, Quarantine Krab also never aired in the US, but aired on other parts in the world. Yeah, again, I just want to go and clarify that this is not the fault of the team that worked on those episodes in particular. It just so happened that it just didn't age well, or it was poor timing. They did a good job on those episodes in particular, but it's just time wasn't necessarily too kind on their works. Okay, so moving on to our next story, we got another piece of controversy. Yes, we're going into trouble after trouble after trouble. And with this one in particular, this is actually very, very recent. In fact, this was actually something that developed just yesterday. And by the way, I just want to clarify that, yes, this is still animation related, but this is really a bit of a cautionary tale about the importance of how apologizing can really save your reputation, as well as another thing to learn is that sometimes internet drama can quickly get out of hand easily. And what I'm talking about is the whole Lindsay Ellis... Whoops, sorry about that. Wait a minute. Here, let me shrink down a bit for you. Yes, it is the Lindsay Ellis controversy. Now, what happened was that just yesterday, the day before that I am recording this right now, apparently, prominent internet reviewer Lindsay Ellis put out a statement. Well, not necessarily a statement. She put out a tweet that ended up becoming massively controversial and a bit of a poor taste, where she would go and make a comment about Raya and the Last Dragon. She would go and put out this tweet right here where it states, "Also watched Raya and the Last Dragon, and I think we need to come up with a name for this genre that is basically Avatar The Last Airbender reduxes. It's like half of all YA fantasies published in the last few years anyways." So, with this tweet, like, some people might think that, oh, Lindsay is just one of the hundreds, if not thousands of people that would go and compare Raya and the Last Dragon to Avatar The Last Airbender. But the way that she framed it really was handled very poorly, where a lot of people kind of interpret it as Lindsay Ellis saying that basically, Raya and the Last Dragon is nothing more but an Avatar The Last Airbender ripoff, and that most YA fantasy novels are pretty much just like Avatar The Last Airbender. Very much generalizing these types of Southeast Asian style or Southeast Asian setting stories to all be a ripoff to Avatar The Last Airbender. And from there, she received a massive amount of backlash, where she would go and state, I could see where if you squint, I was implying all Asian-inspired properties are the same, especially if you were already privy of those conversations where I had not seen them. But the basic framework to The Last Airbender is becoming popular in fantasy fiction outside of Asian-inspired stuff. But still, however, that isn't really helping out the situation. It still didn't change the fact that with Lindsay Ellis's comment, it did feel like it was a bit of poor taste, and it could feel like a bit discriminatory towards Asians. And I'll go and clarify this later, but nowadays, it's not very much of a good time to be a bit discriminatory towards Asians. I'm just saying. And on top of that, she would go and continue on with this kind of strange style of ranting, where she would continue forward and even discuss about Pixar's Soul, where she actually ranted about that. And I don't necessarily have the tweet right here or in this article on Meow, MEAWW. It's the first time I see this. But there was also another tweet where she would go out and she would criticize Soul, saying that it's not really a good film for her, mainly because she views it as a pro-life movie, that somehow it's a feature film that advocates for anti-abortions. Okay, I have no idea what the fridge she is talking about, but apparently that's the thing. Apparently she says that. Apparently that's her opinion. what the, whatever. Anyways, though, as you could tell, this situation really got out of hand, and people were just fed up with what Lindsay has stated. In fact, even brought up a bit of history of Lindsay Ellis being a little bit discriminatory towards Asians, where she even made a bit of a controversial comment towards another movie called Harriet. In fact, let me go and try to find that, if there is another tweet that would mention that. Let's see if this article, like this is honestly the only article that I found before starting this that did discuss about this. But where would it be? Right here? Yeah, okay. Here, yeah, this one. Okay, so there's also this one where in this tweet they also mentioned, like, this is someone that's saying, it's like, choose your fighter, Lindsay Ellis Bad Takes edition, where like it was, one of them is the Raya, and then there's another one where she mentions here, apparently a tweet from last year, someone sitting in front of me on this plane is watching the movie Harriet, and I find myself wondering whether there is a Raylo-style fanfiction between Harriet and her Twinkie former owner, and suddenly grateful that the connection on this plane is not strong enough for me to check. Yeah, that's definitely a yikes right there. Oh, and hold on a sec, I actually did find the, I actually did find the Soul comment. Let's see now. She even stated, finally got around watching Soul, and woof, that ending. Yeah, I get that it's an allegory, but certain conseil does require romancing the souls of the unborn in a way that just doesn't make sense for me. Finally, a Pixar film for the pro-life crowd. Tweeting this now because this is the only thing I will ever say about this movie. Yike, yike, yike. Feel of yikes. I don't know, Lindsay. Your tweet right there is a lot more yikes than that. Yee, boy. So, from there, of course, as you can imagine, Lindsay Ellis did receive so much backlash, mainly because of her comments both on Raya and Soul. And her ultimate response on all this, she actually did put out a full-on response and a big, pretty much a massive statement to the controversial tweets that she had did. And what she decided to do was full-on delete her Twitter. Yep, I am not joking. Let me go and actually check that out right now. Here, I'll just go on Twitter. Let's see, Twitter. So if you actually, you know what? No, better idea. Twitter, Lindsay Ellis. All right, let me go and check that out. So yeah, here, let's go and check out Lindsay Ellis. Did she recover her Twitter account? Nope, it's gone. This is what she did. Apparently, she just decided to just nuke her whole Twitter account. And it's quite shocking, honestly, because out of all things to really cause her to take that action, it has to be her comments on Raya and the Last Dragon and Soul. Like, wow. I'm honestly quite shocked on that. So that's pretty much the big situation that's currently unfolding right now. And I will say that as I am recording this, right now, the whole situation has really gone out of hand. And as you could probably imagine, with how social media is being social media, that it's just going crazy. It's just really getting out of hand to the point where you just see a whole bunch of people arguing one another, like either defending Lindsay Ellis or attacking Lindsay Ellis and stuff like that. And not to mention also going after Raya and the Last Dragon, if it is a good film, if it is a bad film, if it is as good as Avatar: The Last Airbender, or if it's a Last Airbender ripoff, and all that kind of stuff. Like right now, the current situation, it's just that it has really gone out of hand of this whole matter. Now, the one thing that I do want to state, as someone who has been on the internet for such a long time and having my own fair share of massive backlash on Twitter and on social media and stuff like that, one thing that I can state is that when you are in this position, when you are in a place where you said something stupid on social media or you did some kind of screw up, your response to it can either make or break you. It could either completely solve your problem right then and there and you can easily move on and everyone can also easily move on, or you would just go and make the matters absolutely worse. And in the case of Lindsay Ellis, I feel like she screwed up royally. Like like honestly, she went way too far to just full on deleting her account because she would refuse to apologize. And again, I just want to state that I just can't help but feel like it is absolutely shocking that for someone like Lindsay Ellis, someone who has been well known for being constantly bombarded by hatred and by constant attack by right-wing nut jobs, mainly because of how openly leftist that she actually is, that this is what breaks her. It's not the constant attacks from the alt-right, it's because she refuses to apologize for admitting that she did a pretty discriminatory comment about Raya and the Last Dragon in a way that it would frame it that would seem anti-Asian. And I just want to state right now, like, another big part of this on why this is also massively controversial is because of the timing of it all. I mean, I think we all remember last week with what happened in terms of why the hashtag Stop Asian Hate got massively trending. I mean, it's only been a few days ago that there was this white Christian terrorist that decided to go around and shoot and commit a mass shooting that unfortunately killed 8 Asian women. And like he did that in Atlanta and was ready to go and do more of that in Florida. So from there, like, of course, all forms of racism and discrimination against people of color, against any people of color, like, that's full on wrong. But right now, the big hot button topic is racism against Asians. And it's a pretty bad image that we are seeing right now that Lindsay Ellis is making this anti-Asian comment where she would compare anything that would look Southeast Asian as Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I'm not saying that it is racist to compare Raya to Avatar, not at all. Like, there are ways that you can do so in order to actually make some constructive criticism from the movie where it can actually where, like, you can actually bring up some good points where Raya does actually have some similarities and does actually take a lot from Avatar: The Last Airbender. But with the way that Lindsay framed it with this tweet right here, like, it was just very poorly framed. Like, maybe she might have a bit of a point to go and say. Maybe she did have some legit constructive criticism where she would have a point to say with the comparison of Raya and with Avatar: The Last Airbender. But the way she framed it is just, yeah, it just feels very bigoted. It feels like something that she's just very much generalizing that anything Asian is Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, you go to China or you go to Thailand and you see the beautiful architecture and like you would just go and make snarky remarks like, someone's a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender, you know, like, do that kind of stupid crap. And from there, yeah, like, I could definitely see how this just feels absolutely discriminatory. And like, when you step back and look into the big picture, the fact that Lindsay Ellis does not want to apologize, like, that is all. I think that is honestly something that is more controversial, and this is what makes the matter so much worse for Lindsay Ellis. And the reason why I say that is because you got to keep in mind, with Lindsay Ellis, she was someone who was considered one of the leaders of the hashtag Change the Channel movement, to which that movement was meant to go after a corporation like Channel Awesome and make them apologize for the years of bad business practices and the treatment of their employees. Like, it's it's a movement to make Channel Awesome say sorry. And yet here we are right now, where Lindsay Ellis just refuses to say sorry, down to the point of deciding to nuke her entire Twitter account. That really is a bad image for her. That really is pretty nasty that this is how she wants to go out. You know, it's not like, yeah, there are some people out there, like, they would end up deleting their Twitter accounts or their social media for completely different reasons. Like Kelly Marie Tran or Daisy Ridley, like, they would have to delete theirs mainly because of avoiding the bullying and constant harassment from some of the more toxic Star Wars fans. But with Lindsay, however, Yeah, this is going to be a massive scar to her reputation, and this is not the way to go in terms of how to handle being in trouble, on how to how to confront controversy, or like when you are confronted with a situation where you kind of messed up. So really it is kind of like a combination of bad timing and the response to the controversy, where it really did put Lindsay, or it like has now put Lindsay on a really terrible spot. Like, regardless of what you may think about Lindsay's views on Raya and the Last Dragon, or how she compared it to Avatar, the way she handled the controversy, the way she responded by nuking her whole Twitter account, that is something I believe we can all agree that it's just gone way too far. And now, because of this, right now, like when I go on social media, like when we look into the discussions about Lindsay Ellis, or now about Raya and the Last Dragon, like I said before, it has really gotten out of hand, where we see these pointless flame wars of people either defending Lindsay Ellis or attacking Lindsay Ellis, or like the target has been switched to Raya and the Last Dragon, where people are defending it or they're attacking it the same way that Lindsay Ellis is doing so. And because of the mess that it is going in here, I believe it really serves as a lesson of how these internet dramas can nowadays really get out of hand so quickly that suddenly it would just burst and explode on social media, with people jumping into conclusions, already picking a side, and they would just go after each other, even if the discussions are not related to the person in question that is controversial. Like, some people right now are using it as an excuse to either talk about Raya and the Last Dragon, to either defend Raya, or to go and attack Raya and stuff like that. Or that's probably the bigger case, is that there are more people there's a good amount of people that are just using it as an excuse to just go and attack Raya and the Last Dragon, which is not the point of all this. The point is regarding what Lindsay Ellis has done. And that's just one, funny enough, that's only one example this week of how internet drama can quickly get out of hand. You might remember earlier this week, there was another major one that did occur related to Game Grumps, where there were allegations against Dan Avidan, one of the co-hosts, where he was accused of grooming one of his fans, which at that point did get pretty controversial, and like a lot of people immediately picked up on it. But then, like, in the next day or two, it was revealed that there might not be that much of a truth to it. Yes, it was wrong for Dan Avidan to go and have sex with one of his groupies. Like, that is undeniably wrong right there. But there isn't any grooming scenario. There isn't any, like, serious allegations. He's not being a predator towards minors or anything like that. A lot of it is just accusations, false accusations even, and a lot of, like, extreme, a lot of extreme attacks to just go after Dan. But the big thing that I want to emphasize with this controversy, and especially with how things got quickly out of hand, is that it is honestly, by the way, before I continue, I just want to state already that I will confess that I was also someone who did kind of jump into like the controversy and try to make a comment on the whole scenario. And yeah, I did, like, when I read like some of the stuff and heard the video and like tried to do a quick research when the controversy was huge, I did actually believe like Dan was a predator and stuff like that. But then, like, when it was later revealed that it was not the case, I decided to go and step back. Like, I deleted those posts, and I just want to go and make I already apologized, but I just want to do it again here, that I want to make a quick apology to Dan and to the people at Game Grumps for my contribution in adding fuel to the fire. And I probably should have known better, and probably should have done a little bit more research to see if there's anything suspicious about it. So I just want to lay it out right there. I'm sorry, but it's just I felt a little guilty doing that, because I will admit I am a big Game Grumps fan, especially like I really love like some of the stuff from like Aaron and Dan and stuff like that. So that's why I felt guilty being to contribute into that drama right there when I should have known better. So I just want to emphasize that right there. But what I want to clarify about how internet drama can get so out of hand, like during the height of that whole controversy, it is honestly shocking how many people out there would go and use that opportunity in order to go and attack not just Game Grumps, but especially Aaron Hansen. Like, if you want a massive proof, if you want evidence that cancel culture is real, look at how people went after Aaron during that drama, where he had nothing to do with any of the allegations whatsoever, yet people were just so prepared to drag Aaron into this and find an excuse to just go attack him and to go hate him. I mean, I get it. Aaron can have some controversial takes as well. Nothing racist, nothing as bad as what Lindsay did, but it is true, like, yeah, he can have some controversial takes about Zelda or Sonic, but Aaron didn't really do anything wrong in terms of getting that amount of hatred and that amount of backlash. Not to mention when you also got people like JonTron, who used to be a co-host at Game Grumps, who later turned out to be, like, unapologetically an alt-right white nationalist, to the point that, like, in terms of that, it's obvious that JonTron never really learned his lesson. He never really backtracked on it or showed any support for movements that would help people of color, like Stop Asian Hate or Black Lives Matter or anything like that. And I still stand by that having these alt-right white nationalist views should be considered a crime. It should be considered as bad as being a child groomer. And thus, as long as JonTron still has those views, then JonTron should be considered equally as bad as a child groomer. And that's also another thing about JonTron that I do want to emphasize, that holy crap, I don't think it's been talked enough that JonTron has one of the most toxic fan bases of all time. Like, it is just nasty, and I think even he knows it, that his fan base is just so dangerous and loyal to a fault. And I mean, like, Trump supporter loyal to a fault, to the point that it's almost like a cult, and are ready to go and attack anyone and everyone who would dare criticize JonTron on literally anything. So I just want to go and emphasize on that. Trust me, it's honestly insane, because I did actually get a little bit of that taste on social media, where they think that somehow I'm the asshole for saying that racism should be considered a crime as bad as child grooming. So somehow that makes me the bad guy in this case. Yeah, tell that to the 8 Asian women that died last week. I'm just saying. But anyways, the whole point that I want to try to say by bringing up this Game Grumps controversy is that you could see how it would quickly get out of hand so quick, and that a lot of people kind of use it as an excuse to try to force in their own agenda into the situation. Rather it be with the case with the Dan Avidan controversy, where a lot of people use that as an excuse to attack Aaron Hansen or to attack Game Grumps, or especially right now what we are seeing with the case with Lindsay Ellis, that some people are using it as an excuse to go and attack Raya and the Last Dragon. And to go and conclude my thoughts on all this, I just want to go and make a quick statement regarding the case with Raya and with Avatar The Last Airbender. Honestly, like, who cares? Like, honestly, why are we wasting our time trying to make all these random debates with these strangers on social media? How about we just say this, that Raya and the Last Dragon and Avatar The Last Airbender, that both these projects are both really good works of animation, and that they do a really good job at in terms of Southeast Asian representation. If the Southeast Asian people are happy to go and see themselves in these projects, whether it be Avatar or Raya and the Last Dragon, as long as they're happy, then let them be happy. Just leave it at that right there. And I will say this, yes, I understand that Raya and the Last Dragon, it's not a perfect film. It definitely has its problems. And there are some things that could be fairly comparable to Avatar The Last Airbender. But I will say that if it's going to copy from something, might as well copy from the best. And the elements that they did take from Avatar The Last Airbender, at least they took that to its advantage in order to go and create some really amazing things in the film. Like, some of the best things in the movie are the things that can be compared to Avatar The Last Airbender. Like the amazing animation that they have done in order to create this very immersive world, and also the epic action scenes are absolutely brilliant. So why waste our time to go after which project is better, which project is good or bad? Let's just say both of them are good, and we'll just call it a day. And if you still want to waste your time trying to argue or try to find someone to go and pick a fight because you're pissed off at whatever I said in this episode, then then that's your problem, not mine, because I'm not going to be wasting my time arguing with a random stranger on the internet. So, with that said, let's just say that Raya is good, Avatar The Last Airbender is good. That's it. Let's just call it a day. We don't have to go deeper into this, mainly because if we do so, then it would end up becoming a little bit more troublesome, and that's where you end up like Lindsay Ellis, and you might end up falling into this like bigoted trap where what you would say is now considered a bit dangerous and a bit not derogatory, but a bit discriminatory, if you get what I mean. So that's honestly my whole thoughts on the whole situation. Hopefully it will die down soon. But with that said, let's go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about the whole Lindsay Ellis controversy? How do you feel about it? Do you think that she's in the wrong? Do you think the whole scenario is way too explosive and people are way too harsh on Lindsay? Let me know what you all think on this. Okay, let's see what we got. Let's see. Talk about trying to be anti-Asian and basically follow the same foot as Channel Awesome of not apologizing. And as for deleting her Twitter, oh hi Mr. Enter. As an Avatar fan, there are no comparisons between Raya and Avatar since that the writers of Raya are Southeastern Asian and Avatar were inspired by East Asian themes. But sure, there might be similar tropes, but that doesn't mean that they are the same. And as for the sole pro-life crap, the comment was so wrong on so many levels. I don't know where to start. Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing with Lindsay's comments is that, like, I could see where maybe she might have a point with Raya and the Last Dragon and Avatar, but in terms of Soul, it's like, what the fridge are you talking about? And also, I just want to state this, like, yes, everyone can have bad takes. You know very well I can have bad takes, that you guys have your own bad takes as well. Admit it, you have some as well. But when you try to apply some serious issues, rather it be regarding abortion or about race, that's when your bad takes become like at a whole new level. Like that's where your bad takes become like full on extreme. So that's the thing. If you are going to go into a bad take, please don't involve like any form of serious issue because you're just going to make things worse from there. Let's see what else we got here. I never really liked Lindsay's work. They were already boring to me except for the Chipmunks Adventure review, mainly because it was a Nostalgia Critic collab. As a guy who is mixed Asian, I'm not sure whether to laugh at this because of how bad it is or be offended because of how bad it is. Yes, Raya does have similarities to Airbender, but it's still a great movie on its own. In fact, I was comparing this more to Mortal Kombat, Mulan, and a bit of Kung Fu Panda. Okay, that is fair enough, dude. Let's see. Lindsay Ellis did say something that's really stupid and fully outrageous. I mean, we all did enjoy Raya and the Last Dragon anyways. Of course, we did kind of see some similarities that are related to Avatar The Last Airbender, but we, including me, did love the film. And this Asian hate needs to stop because everything is getting out of hand when it comes to Asians. Although Lindsay did have a point of the similarities between Raya and Avatar, but her putting it up like this is just too much. Exactly. And like I said before, I know that there are plenty of other people that have made comparisons to Avatar The Last Airbender. We know Saberspark made those comparisons to criticize the movie. We know Honest Trailers just recently made some comparisons. But the way Lindsay Ellis framed it just seems a bit discriminatory. That it just feels like in a way that feels kind of wrong, in a sense. So it's not really the fact that she compared it to Avatar, it's the way that she put it that it kind of seemed pretty bad. Let's see. The lesson here is, if you're going to criticize a movie, make sure you word everything correctly. If you don't, you're going to end up with a major backlash. Lindsay Ellis was not careful with this, and worse, she tried to escape this by removing her Twitter account instead of apologizing. Yeah, trust me, that is a lesson that even, like, I know personally, that I know firsthand of, like, yeah, there are some reviews I didn't word it correctly, and I did get backlash. I have my fair share of that, I will admit. But, yeah, you are definitely correct on that, sir. Let's see. For somebody who claims to be progressive and anti-turf, this is a very outdated and wrong. I'm not Asian, but Asians are not a singular identity, the same way Hispanics aren't a singular identity. They have unique cultures. Sometimes just don't say everything that comes out of your brain on Twitter, and the timing is just terrible. Just say that you are sorry and that you messed up and donate heavily towards Asian American charities. But to quote her former bosses, I'm sorry you feel that way. Yeah, well, okay, you don't have to go as far as like donate to charity, because there are still definitely a lot of people out there that would do charities and yet they would still be like horrible people. Like some people think charities are a way to like kind of put up this mask saying that, oh, they learned their lesson, but in reality they have not. And there are plenty of examples out there that are like that. But yeah, this is just a case where, like, you don't have to donate. Just say you're sorry. That really is the case. Lindsay should have apologized to her statement and just move on from there. I don't know. Maybe it's because nowadays, because of her book and because of like her channel getting more than 1 million subscribers, she just like maybe the case with Lindsay is just like the fame kind of got to her head. That could probably be the case where she's like above, like maybe it is a case where she's like above apologies and stuff like that. Let's see now. All I can say here is just yikes. This right here is the definition of a bad take, and while I did spot a few similarities to Avatar and Raya, I'll admit that it wasn't overbearing like how Lindsay makes them out to be, and they don't subtract for the film's quality. Also, as for your statement on JonTron's fans, yeah, they're toxic, but at least I'll say they're not the most toxic fan base on YouTube. Dream stands, anyone? Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. Like, no, it's for sure that there are definitely a whole bunch of like toxic fan bases out there. Like, there are definitely some that could even be said that are worse than JonTron. Case in point, look at the fan base of like the Quartering or Geeks and Gamers. Like, that could definitely be that could definitely be something that could be viewed as something that could debatably be even more toxic. But that doesn't change that JonTron's fan base is still massively toxic, and it's kind of frightening where, like, and I'll just say right now, if you're a fan of JonTron, that's perfectly fine. I'm not saying that this is all of JonTron's fans here. Like, if you still enjoy his videos, that's perfectly fine. You do you. It's just that it's obvious that there are some people out there that it is terrifying that they think that just because he makes funny videos that he can get away with literally everything. That he could be literally above, like he could be above morals and he could be above the law just because his videos are entertaining. It's frightening how some people legit have that mentality. Let's see now. What else do we got here? Wait a minute. No, come back, chat. Oh, fudge nabbit. What did I do? Okay, there we go. I don't know. It's just the page is just making weird things and I got scared. Let's see what else we got. Lindsay Ellis did say something that's really stupid and fully outrageous. I mean, did I, okay, no, I didn't read this one. Lindsay Ellis did say something that's really stupid and fully outrageous. I mean, we all did enjoy Raya. Of course we did kind of... Oh, no. I think I did read this one. I'm sorry. Anyways, I'll go and move... I'll read one more comment before we jump into the last story. Let's see now. Oh, actually, no. 2 more, actually. There's someone who brought up a good point. It's even worse because The Last Airbender incorporates elements of numerous Asian cultures throughout the 4 nations. So by saying that something is pseudo The Last Airbender, I think it's basically like saying that it's basically like she said that one culture is the same as multiple. Yeah, you know, the funny thing is that this is kind of like an even worse version of when people compared classic cartoons to Cuphead. When, like, you know that time when people were all talking about the Cuphead style? Like, this is something that takes it to a next level where it's not only ill-informed and, like, poorly researched and stuff, but it's also something that's, like, it's even worse where you add in the issue of race, especially in terms of Asian race. It's like, eesh, it makes it a whole lot worse there. Okay, I'll go and read one more comment before we jump into the grand finale. Oh, actually, where do we got here? Which one? I'll go with you. It's been a while since I saw a Lindsay Ellis video, mostly because I've just seen other YouTube essayists I've been more interested in, but man, I hope that she's better than running and hiding. I will admit that I've been guilty of saying something stupid, even sometimes insensitive things in the past. We all make mistakes, but making excuses is not a sign of trying better oneself. Also, for the record, I'm not a fan of brushing off a piece of art with the, it's trying to be like so-and-so. Yes, that's basically the big lesson to take from here. Like, if there's one thing you want to learn from the whole Lindsay Ellis controversy, is that the way you respond to something that you've messed up, or something that did cause some massive backlash on the internet, the way you respond it can either make you, or it could break you even more. And now, it is time that we shall jump onto the grand finale. And with our final story, considering that we started with a Disney story, might as well end it off with a Disney story. And don't worry, this is not anything where, like, something is in trouble. Don't worry, the troubles are finally over. What we are talking right now is going to be a bit of a long-term plan, something that Disney wants to do in the long run to ensure that Disneyland would be back bigger than ever. We all know that at the end of April that they are going to be reopening, but of course with massive CDC guidelines being enforced everywhere in the park, rather it be wearing masks that are mandatory, distancing, social distancing, and also a very limited capacity as well. But in this case here, in the long run, there is also another factor that Disney wants to do in order to really ensure that Disneyland will be bigger and better than ever for people to stay in the parks. And what I'm talking about is going to be Disneyland Forward. Yes, the Walt Disney Company has officially made an announcement regarding a new big plan called the Disneyland Forward, to which they are going to build much more things within the Disneyland Resort that will include a lot more shops, a lot more restaurants, and of course, a lot more rides. Now, some people have speculated that this could be like a third gate, that Disneyland is going to have a third theme park that will accompany the Disneyland as well as Disney California Adventure. But that's not really the case here. What they are doing, I guess the best way to put it, is that Disneyland is getting a DLC pack. That's basically what they're going to do. They're going to build a special section that's going to connect Disneyland to Disney California Adventure, where in between there will be some extra shops, extra restaurants, and extra rides. And I will say right now, though, that this is going to be something that they are going to plan in the way future. Like, this isn't going to be happening anytime soon. In fact, to read you from my source here on Deadline, it actually states here, specifics on the project as to cost and what will be done were not made public. The time frame for bringing plans to the Anaheim City Council is before 2023. But city officials are said to be on board with the Disney updates. No public funds will be expended, and there are no plans for a third theme park in Anaheim. So, with that said, of course, it's going to be quite a long time before we're ever going to see any of this happen. But considering that I did mention that there's going to be a lot more rides that are going to be happening at the Disneyland Resort, some of you might be wondering, what are these rides? What is Disneyland going to plan to do for this Disneyland Forward project? Well, if you actually go into the Disneyland Forward website, like literally at disneylandforward.com, what they are planning to do is stuff that for now they're saying it's all a maybe. That they are going to take areas and attractions that are in international Disney parks, like in Tokyo Disneyland or Shanghai Disneyland and stuff like that, and they are going to consider to bring them to Disneyland to have an American version. Like, one example is that they are saying here that maybe they're going to have a Frozen section. maybe they're gonna have an area based on Tangled, or maybe they're gonna have like a whole area dedicated to Peter Pan, kind of like what kind of like what Disney is planning to do for Tokyo Disney Sea. They are considering also maybe they're gonna bring in an area based on Zootopia. Maybe there will be a whole Zootopia ride that they could do, very similarly to what they are planning for Shanghai Disneyland. They could be bringing that to Disneyland as well. That's a maybe. Or maybe they could build another Toy Story land like they have already done in several different Disney parks. Or maybe they can also have another Tron Light Cycle. It could be all possible. It's all a big maybe. But also, I just want to state right now, oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but yeah, here is what it looks like. This is the concept art of what they want to do with the whole plan. This is what it could potentially look like in terms of a whole aerial view. But in terms of the map of where it's going to be, it's actually going to be not that far in terms of like where it's going to be connected. It's still going to be in the whole Disneyland resort area, but in here, they are planning for a possibility that in this area, like this is going to be the new expansion. This is going to be Disneyland Forward, and it's going to be within the area of Disneyland Hotel as well as the Disney's Paradise Pier Hotel as well. And then you'll see like there is this massive connection where like you can go into you can go like you're at DCA right now, and then you'll be walking into the area. You'll see all these different rides, different themed areas, and then you could go into this area, and then suddenly you could walk over here. Hey, you're in Disneyland. So that's the big plan that they might be thinking. And also, there is this one little extra section that they are thinking about. Like, of course, they are thinking maybe they'll add in like they're like a new parking area, or like they'll add like new resort plans that they could possibly do. Like there are some ideas, or actually, oh no, wait a minute. No, I realize this is still part of the map. Like this is like technically southeast from Disneyland, where like this is this is between in the South Harbor Boulevard, like that area down here, and then like you got this road that stretches along here as well. That in between those you'll get like this whole area that is like an extra resort, the extra restaurants and stuff like that. Like there are new experiences that you could also do within the Disneyland area. So that's basically the entire big plan that Disneyland wants to do. And if I could, I'll just say right now, if I could go and take a massive guess regarding when they are going to do all this, I feel like we're not going to see this anytime soon. Like, maybe all this is going to be ready by 2025. And the reason why I say, like, 2025 at the earliest is mainly because it would fit perfectly to be right on time for Disneyland's 70th anniversary. Like, here's the present, like, here's your present. It's going to be, like, all these new rides and, like, all these new experiences. We made Disneyland bigger and better. Like, that could be the major scenario. But for me, what I see right here, honestly, the way that I view this is basically looking into the big goal of what Disneyland wants to do. And of course, the big goal of all this is not necessarily to bring in new experiences and stuff like that. It really is all about the money. Like, this is all just a big plan in order to find ways to have people to spend more money at the Disney parks to not only boost the economy of the Disneyland Resort, but also boost the economy of the city of Anaheim and for the state of California. That they want to find an excuse to turn Disneyland a bit more like Walt Disney World, where people would go and travel to California, to Anaheim, where they would go and actually stay at the Disneyland Resort, where, like, the reason why they would come to California is not for, like, all the other places, but rather to see the Disneyland Resort, and that's it. like I said, to do like a bit of a Walt Disney World kind of thing. And that's why they would want to find ways to give people an excuse to spend more of their money at the Disneyland resort, whether it be to build more shops so they can buy a whole bunch more merchandise, more restaurants so that they could consider that they don't have to go elsewhere to go and grab a bite to eat, because they could stay at Disneyland to go into their restaurants. Or you can have more rides so that people could go and buy more. They could buy not buy hotels. This ain't freaking Monopoly, for God's sakes. But to buy more nights at hotels so that they could stay longer at Disneyland, so that they could go and experience the rides. That's pretty much the big thing, is to go and boost up the economy. And that's why right now, and the biggest proof that I want to say is that the reason why we are seeing this as more as an economy boost, more so than try to enhance new, bigger, and better experiences, is mainly because of the way that they're just importing a lot of attractions that they're already building in other theme parks and just bringing it onto Disneyland. That they're not planning anything new, they're not planning anything unique. A lot of them are just existing rides that they're planning out in other places. Like I said before, the idea, like Toy Story Land, it's hard, like nowadays there's a lot less Disney parks that don't have a Toy Story Land than Disney parks that actually do have one. They're bringing back they're making another Tron Light Cycle. They're bringing in Shanghai's Zootopia ride. They're bringing in themed areas of Frozen, of Tangled, and Peter Pan. And I mean, I can understand, like, technically that would be a good explanation, or it could be a good excuse to actually have a place where these franchises could actually be highly prominent, to have like a bigger, to give Frozen a more prominent to give Frozen a more prominent presence at the Disney parks, or to give some kind of presence for Tangled, to give an actual Tangled section and actually make a Tangled ride. There is that excuse that they could go into, and that's perfectly understandable. But again, a lot of these are just like rehashed ideas that they're already doing for other attractions. And it's not necessarily something that would be unique. It's not something that would make Disneyland Forward stand out from like the other Disney areas. I know this is not technically a third gate per se, but it is pretty clear that what Disney is doing with these attractions is just like, they're trying to skip ahead in order to make the time in order to build this a lot faster. In order to go and actually like skip the ideas, like we already know what we're doing with these, we'll just go and duplicate what we have already done and just make another one to make an American version, just so we can include this onto an American theme park like Disneyland. And that's kind of the big idea. Now, will this actually work? That's only going to be something that time will tell. But it is, of course, understandable why Disney is doing this for Disneyland, especially regarding the fact that when it comes to the Disney parks, that's the division in which it lost the most money for the Walt Disney Company. Like, keep in mind, yeah, sure, things are going extremely well with Disney Plus, and it's really a massive help to carry Disney in order to keep on going and to keep running business during the pandemic. But when it comes to the Disney park, they have lost billions, not millions, billions of dollars. And every time the theme parks are still closed down, they have been losing a massive and very significant amount of money every time. So they need something in the long run in order to recuperate from the damages and the loss that they've had throughout this entire pandemic. And they're hoping that with this idea of Disneyland Forward, that maybe they could go and try to regain those costs that would give people more, like if they would find a way to give more of an excuse for people to stay within the Disneyland resort, to spend more days at Disneyland and to spend more money at Disneyland. That's kind of the big goal of all this. So honestly, for me, like, even though they do sound pretty interesting, there's nothing really that's new that I feel like it would be worth hyping for this whole Disneyland Forward project. And ultimately, we'll just have to wait and see with how these rides will go. Maybe they will be very beneficial for Disneyland and could actually work out very well, that they will turn Disneyland into a really like must-go place because like you got to go and check out these rides now that they are in America. Or maybe it's just not going to work out that well. Ultimately, we're just going to have to wait and see. All right, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about Disneyland Forward? Are you guys excited for the ideas that Disneyland is trying to do with this? Are you guys a little bit more iffy about Disneyland Forward? What are you hoping to see from this expansion? Let me know what you all think. Okay, let's see what we got here. Disneyland Forward looks interesting. It's nice to see Disneyland expand and to see properties like Tangled and Tron get represented at the resort. But the fact that it's all rides that already exist around the world kind of gets me less excited, especially since I can drive a shorter distance to go to Toy Story Land. Still, I'm still just gonna have to wait and see how this new area looks. Yeah, especially like... There's no way that they could advertise that, hey, come see Toy Story Land at the Disney parks, you know, or like, come see Toy Story Land at Disneyland. It's like, yeah, that's nice, but we already got one at Walt Disney World, so there's like no real point, I guess. But anyways, moving on to here. I might be down for a Zootopia place, a Tron ride, a Tangled or Frozen place, or what might even be better is a Raya and the Last Dragon place, an attraction as well. Who knows what Disney is planning to do with the Disney parks, with new attractions that we might be able to see. I might be pretty hyped for these ideas, but we'll work through... will it work though? Let's find out. Also, I got Monster Hunter Rise yesterday, and it is a great game. Yeah, oh my god, that is actually very true. I would be so down for a Raya and the Last Dragon attraction. That would actually be pretty epic right there. Oh my god. I don't know if Disney would be willing to do it or would know where to put it, but yeah, there is actually a pretty solid idea. Make a Raya ride. Let's see now. I live 45 minutes away from Disneyland. As a longtime Disneyland fan, this is exciting as hell. If Anaheim approve, we will get a bigger Disneyland for the next several years. Anaheim really need this upgrade due to the lack of tourism, and of course, new rides. Hopefully we could go to Arendelle and Zootopia in the same state as Los Angeles and San Francisco. Well, at least we got some people hyped up for this. Now, it sounds really interesting. The thought of seeing many Disney's newer movies being represented in the parks will be fun to see, and people will certainly be excited to see the brand new parts of Disneyland. Though with California's new rule about no screaming on roller coasters, don't expect any excitement screams anytime soon. Yeah, that is definitely true. Although I think like when Disneyland Forward opens, like there won't be any of that for sure. Like those rules will be long gone. But yeah, it is kind of hilarious that they would still go apply to those rules, and like when you're going down that roller coaster nowadays, like you're in California, you're in Knott's Berry Farm, you want to go down that big scary coaster, like you got to keep it to yourself, man. Keep that excitement to yourself. You got to go down that ride going yeah. Yeah, some people are wondering, it's like, how does one not scream? I know, that's kind of the crazy thing about that. All right, I think I'll go read one more comment here. I haven't been to Walt Disney World in Florida, nor have I been into the US since 2012. Looking at this, this looks like a good update for Disneyland, especially the Zootopia section, since I am a huge fan of Zootopia. I might have to check it out someday, but first, I'll need to wait for the pandemic to ease up, be vaccinated, and make sure to keep my distance from some people, just in case they still didn't get the sanitization memo. Oh wait, until it's okay to visit America again. Yeah, that could be a major factor right there. And I think with all that said, that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And what a fun episode it has been. Oh boy, I told you it was a wild ride, but at least we managed to get out safely, and we managed to get out perfectly okay. So, with all that said and done, I hope you all had fun listening to this episode, and tune in next week for more fun times ahead. So, with all that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for watching, thank you all so much for listening, and until next time, see you later, dudes!